Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, I'm no qua Osinachi. One man Osinachi, I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, Mama Osinachi.
Okay, sir. So, yeah. For this panel, three. New directions being used for this panel. My name is Sisemi Park in Kanora. Chair is Professor Obi Usadolo, but it's actually unavailable. I am the organizer, and I work on the history of Benin women. My area is actually on international prostitution and Benin women. I also work on issues of popular culture and youth transformation in Benin. Today we are going to be having 4 panelists. Yesterday we had someone who could not join us, could not do his presentation in the last panel. So he is going to be presenting here, and it's Emmanuel Iweke. Emmanuel, are you there? Supposed to be presenting on Zoom. He has not joined. Okay, if he has not joined, so quickly take the person that is here right away before we take others that will join us soon. I'll quickly check them all and find out the difficulties that is happening. We are taking the paper of Mercy Omorigi. No, Mercy Usaweme Omorigi. Mercy is a scholar in Benin history, and she's working on Itendo proverb. She actually works with the Edo State government, and she's here to present her work on Itendo, Edo proverbs, and the proverb of Solomon. She's doing an analysis, in fact, comparing both Edo proverb and the proverbs of Solomon. Please enjoy the conversation.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm expecting more lessons for just about to start now, so I want to keep the time. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mercy Omorige. On this presentation.
Mercy Omorige presentation.
The title of the paper is the slide.
What do you call it?
It's
ITN. Yeah, sure. There's no problem. Yes, you can do it. You're too lazy. Right. Which one is your? You should know it. Yeah, it's working. What do you feel it's not needed? What is it?
Bluetooth disconnected.
Yeah. It's cool. No, not that. You see, I'm down hard. Yeah. Right, let's see. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah.
Okay, let's start.
Yeah, because it's PDF, it's not PowerPoint.
All right, thank you. You're welcome again, everybody. Title of my paper is Itendo or Itendo, which is Edo Proverbs and the Proverb of Solomon. I'm comparing and contrasting Edo Proverbs and the Proverbs of Solomon. Okay. So this is a brief background of Edo Proverbs. Proverbs are very peculiar to the African people. From Nigerians, Yorubas, Proverbs to Malawi, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Ghana, Zambia, Ethiopia, Itendo Defwa. And what that simply means is that Edo Proverbs are timeless. They are true and they have very deep meanings. Edo Proverbs date back to the very foundation of the ancient kingdom of Benin from 40 BC to 1100 Common Era, also known as the Ogiso era. Now, ingrained in these proverbs are realities of the past, the present, and the future. It shows in wise, sharp, and very brief words the experiences and consequences of both wise and foolish actions. Even though alongside folk tales were about the easiest way to teach a child lifelong lessons and wisdom. The Proverb of Solomon, as we all know, is just as ancient, timeless, and true. Now, this work attempts to interpret Edo Proverbs with the Proverbs of Solomon, comparing and contrasting them. It also proposed to promote Edo as an organized collection of Edo Proverbs, easily accessible to people all over the world. Okay, these are some scholars. A lot of scholars have actually done some great works on Edo studies. I have to pick this one because they've done something quite phenomenal on Edo, which is Edo Proverb. The first person there is Jacob Igalewa, who is being known for his book, A Short Story of Benin. The Short Story of Benin is very rich with Edo Proverb. And then we have Lady Anna Ademola. She compiled the African Proverbs trilogy and was the first Black African woman to graduate from Oxford University in 1935. We also have the author, J.O. Odiase, who wrote the short book on Itendo and their meanings in English as well. So I picked about 10 proverbs that I'm going to be analyzing today. These 10 proverbs, I'm going to tell you the proverbs in Edo language, the meaning, that means the literary and the connotative meaning in Edo language, as well as the meaning or the similarities and the contrast in proverbs. So we'll read the Edo proverb, and then we'll also read proverbs in Solomon that tells you literally almost the same meaning as the Edo proverb. The first one here is Umenwe or Bowa you feel. So what that means is that a wise person builds his house among the wise and live in safety. Right? That's literally the literal meaning and even the connotative meaning. And then Proverbs 13:20 says almost the same thing, but in different words. That he that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but the companion of fools shall be destroyed. Now, remember I said that Edo Proverbs were about the way that parents and elders teach young people and children how to become wise and how to live right. The second proverb here is Eonene. That the ear that doesn't listen is cut along with the head. So when a child is trying to prove stubborn, the mother would recite that proverb and say, that if you don't listen, you get yourself in trouble. If you don't listen, you get yourself in trouble. And then we have the Proverbs 15, verse 31, that also says the same thing. The ear that heareth the reproach of life abideth among the wise. Right? So Proverbs is saying that if you listen, you'll be wise and you'll be prosperous. And it's the same thing that Proverbs 15 says. And then we have another one here. Now, what this means is that the stone you see coming can never make you blind. This simply means that you are able to foresee danger. When you see a stone coming, you are able to escape the dangers of the stone. You can't just open your eyes and allow the stone get in your eyes. So that means that you foresee danger. A foreseen danger can't be averted. So you see, there's a similarity here. There's a contrast here with the proverb of Solomon. Proverbs 1:17 says, "Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of the bird." So while Edo Proverbs uses a stone to illustrate that meaning, the proverb of Solomon uses a bird. But these two objects actually is referring to man, right? So it said that when you foresee that a bird that already sees that a net is being spread would do well to avoid that net or that danger. It's the same thing for a child who already sees that a trap is being set for him or a stone is coming. He's able to avert that trouble. Then we have Orema Yahweh Midoma. Now, this particular proverb has a story, has a folk tale that is attached to it. That's it's quite long, so I may not be able to give the details of the folk tale. But what it simply means is that 2 months sleep deprives you of achieving your goals. Connotatively, it also means that a denial of opportunity because of circumstances. So if you lose someone, for instance, so the help that's supposed to come from that person, you are not able to get it because you no longer have that opportunity. Or you can take the literal meaning, which says when you sleep too much, if you sleep too much, you are not able to achieve your goals. And then we have that same meaning in the book of Proverbs 20, verse 13, that says, love not sleep. Love not sleep, lest that come to poverty. Open thy eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. Then we have another proverb. So what this means is that a hungry man is better than an overfed man, right? Connotatively, it means that too much of everything is bad. So if you have enough food and you eat all of the food, you become overfed and you are literally not able to do anything. So Proverbs also teaches us the same lesson by saying that if thou found honey, he said, hast thou found honey, eat so much as sufficient for thee. Eat so much as sufficient for thee, let that be filled therewith and vomit it. So it's talking about not doing things too much. Take as much that is sufficient for you, or do as much that you can do. The sixth proverb here is, now the way, now, the literal meaning of this is that the person that made you request for food or beans, there is beans. And that's why you see the picture of beans. The person that made you request for food or beans should be the one who should be satisfied with that food, right? Or connotatively, it means that your purpose should be your priority. You should focus on your priority because there are so many distractions in this world. So when you have a priority, focus on it and try to avoid the distractions. And then Proverbs also says teaches about the same lessons when he says that a man diligent in his business, right? So when you are diligent in your business, when you are focused in your business, you shall stand before kings and you shall not stand before men. Then we have another proverb here. Now, it's a Benin word for danger or evil. So it's actually where is the name of a bird. It's a type of bird. So we are saying that the bird is quick to escape a disaster from the tree. And that's because it is skilled and it understands the times and workings of the environment. So when there's disaster, it's able to escape. So this bird actually is talking about a man. So you should be able to understand the workings of your environment and avoid any form of trouble. It also has a spiritual connotation, which means that you can be guided by God or your guardian agent, and you are able to avoid or escape from adversity or foreseen adversity. So Proverbs also says that, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple will pass on and is punished. So if you are not smart, you will just walk into that trouble and you'll be punished. And then we have another one here, Ego. All right. Ego Maria, money has no enemy. That's the meaning of this. Money has no enemy. And Proverbs says the same thing in different words, right? When it says, wealth maketh friends, but the poor is separated from his enemy. So Ego Maria is also wealth, money or wealth makes a lot of friends and it has no enemy. Okay, we have another one here. He whose words will stand true, or he whose words is firm, or he who has the authority to bring to pass his own words, doesn't argue or doesn't talk much, right? So connotatively, it means wise and decisive people argue less. So that is what Norega said to us. So Proverbs also says the same. He says the multitude of words they wanted see, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. So when you are wise and you know what to do, and you have the authority to carry out that plan, you don't talk much, you just want to focus on your plan and do what you need to do. That's the lesson this proverb is teaching. And then we have the 10th one here. And this simply means that it is bad to be proud within your neighborhood. Pride is sin. That is what it simply means. Your pride is not good for anyone. And Proverbs also says the same thing, Proverbs 21 verse 4. A high look and a proud heart and the plowing of the wicked is sin. And so I have to put the picture of my mom there because growing up, she's the one that always tells us this proverb. So whenever she's talking to us, she's instructing us, she always uses some of these proverbs to instruct us. And that is my beautiful mother right there. Okay, in conclusion, these proverbs are another testament that there were already great civilizations in ancient Edo way before the coming of the white man. Because a lot of people still believe that the white man brought in civilization, which is correct. However, there were a lot of civilizations already on before the coming of the white man, and there are many books out there that testifies to that. It is also a testament that the Benin culture was well refined with brilliance, morals, and deep discoveries, because it takes a lot of wisdom to be able to put those proverbs together, because people have gone through experiences and they have seen that these things actually they are true and they work. Now, if we had Ikmamosa, Imatitikpa, or Sadebame to document this proverb in ancient times, like King Solomon did, or like the authors of the Book of Solomon did with the proverb of Solomon, we would most certainly have a richer collection of Edo proverbs today. But thank God for me, my name is Osaweme, thank God for my elder sister Ishengbe, thank God for Isoke who presented yesterday, thank God for Edorogo and other beautiful researchers who are here today doing these studies, putting things together for easy access and use. And most certainly, I want to also thank God for you, our great listener, who have shown great interest in the study, preservation, and the promotion of Benin, of the rich Benin history and culture. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes, thank you very much for uploading that. This is actually our fourth international conference and our first presentation. I'm very happy that she did so well. Thank you very much. And however, I have issues with the way she made murder of the Benin language. There are so many proverbs she was saying, and I was wondering what she's saying, you know, because she didn't pronounce some of the proverbs properly. But I love the ability to draw, to bring what was available in the Book of Solomon, Songs of Solomon, Proverbs of Solomon, and be able to analyze it with what is available in ancient Benin Kingdom. This shows that human existence, every human culture, they've all developed understanding, they've all developed knowledge from no culture or people is lesser than any other. We are all one and we are beautiful people. So thank you for that. We'll give you the audience time to ask you questions and make contribution to your work in order to make the work better so that she can take it out for publication. Thank you very much for that. So Iweke, you told me you are going to be online. Are you there? Iweke Emmanuel? I think he used, are you the one that used Ebuka? No, okay, it's not the one. Is anybody saying anything online? Just check. No. They say we are not seeing anything. Oh, okay. Very poor voice. Can you please fix it? They said they can't. Are you seeing the questions? Okay. Okay. All right. We have 3 other presentations that we're supposed to take, but it's as if our presenters are unavailable. They are not online. But I have one of the presenters here who is dealing with campus courtesan in Benin, a historical analysis. His name is Victor Osaon Agbobawegian. Victor Osaon Agbobawegian is unavoidably unavailable as a result of his father's funeral. So is you know, in Benin, the funeral process is very important for us, and he's a very old man. He's using 7 old days, so it's not available. I will just speak to his paper because my laptop has issues, and the PowerPoints I was supposed to use, everything is down. So I'll just speak to his paper. Courtesan in Benin, a historical analysis. If you've been in Benin City or you followed the issues of courtesan in Nigeria, you will understand that courtesan is a very strong issue in Benin. One of the issue on courtesan is you have both street courtesan in Benin. You have this is not my paper, so you people should understand with me. I'm presenting on this behalf. You have street courtesan, then you have campus courtesan. You also have courtesan among older people in the society. As these are the different ranges of courtesan. But however, he is focusing on campus courtesan, and the reason he picked 1977 is because at that point, a particular school in Benin, University of Benin and Ambrose Ali University, which is this case study, took focus at issues of serious campus courtesan. That was the period it started. There had been courtesan, but from 1977 to early 1980s, you have the issues of courtesan here and there. But from what he analyzed in his work, from the 1990, courtesan took a new dimension in Benin. In Ambrose Ali University, in 1994, Ambrose Ali University was rated as the second highest court school in the whole wide world. The first was in China, then the second was Ambrose Ali University. So you find out that in Ambrose Ali University, there was so many young boys, young girls that lost their life as a result of campus war. So in his work, he was able to bring out different campus war that happened. He analyzed them, but we are sorry he's not here, and I cannot give details of those issues because it's actually not my work. So I discussed the issues of campus courtesan and looked at it from a historical perspective and moved from one stage to the other and concluded that campus courtesan started with just gang, as in what he called friendship association that moved from one level to another and became violent at the end and all that. So I think the focus of the work is just to analyze the issue of campus courtesan in Benin. Thank you. Thank you. I was actually struggling because that's not my field. So the next presentation we are going to be taking, which will be the last one now because the other person is unavailable due to health issues, and I cannot present his work. So we are still waiting for you, Iweke. If you can hear me, we are waiting for you before we close this panel. So today I'm going to be presenting my own paper and part of my thesis, Central Boys and International Prostitution in Benin, a study of the Genova gang, 1990 to 2010. Who are the Central Boys? Central Boys are also called Pure Boys. Okay, I had introduced myself earlier, that's why let me introduce myself again. Okay, my name is Zengwe Pati Bukanoa, and I teach history at the University of Benin. My area of focus is the history of Benin women and history of international prostitution in Benin. So I'm presenting Central Boys and international prostitution in Benin. So I will start by giving a clear conceptual clarification of who the Central Boys are. Central Boys can also be called Pure Boys. They can also be called Black Boys. So these young men are the first set of young men who gave international prostitutes in Benin a sense of belonging. Why do I say a sense of belonging? The first set of prostitutes that went to, first set of women that went for sex work from Benin to Europe, when they came back, some of them could not find husbands to get to marry them. Many of them could not have children. They were rejected because at that point, the society had not accepted or embraced this set of people. So what happened is that the second set, in what I call the second phase, when they started trying to move and leave Benin to go and do to go into sex work in Europe, they realized that there was something that was needful for them, which was one, marriage, which is very important in Benin culture and Benin values. No matter how wealthy you are, how beautiful you are, whatever you are, no matter how educated you are, if you do not have a husband and you do not have children, most importantly, children in the Benin culture, you are failed already. Igbafe, in his work, when he was analyzing the history of Benin, he took our time to analyze issues of family, the patriarchy in Benin, that how big for a normal Benin man, just for him to get married to as many women as he could have. It's a patriotic society. He just marry them, and they begin to have children. And when they have these children, he gives them a farmland, and these women begin to start up their own life with their own children. So for a Benin woman, your success first is determined with marriage and children, even if you are not married but have children. So for you to have children, you need a man. So there was a need for men in their lives. So these women recognize that if we come back without a husband and people reject us and we are unable to get married, we are failed totally. So some of them kept men for themselves before they left. Some of them had boyfriends that they promised that if I go, I will bring money to settle you and we will marry. Then some of them left. Those who did not have boyfriends, when they got there and they began to make money, when they made money, they got other girls into the international prostitution business. They had girls for themselves, and I said, okay, now we are good to go. They get a man, and I'm not just talking about anyhow man, finest men in the society. These parade boys, they have to be. So let me give a description of, because I was coming with the conceptual clarification of how parade boys look like. A parade boy has to be tall, fine, cute, broad chest. These are the young men that former international prostitutes from Benin or international sex worker or those who are still involved in international sex work choose to get married to. So you see these parade boys. Why did they call them parade boys? How come about that name? In Benin, we call the most important food for a Benin man is called ikmen. That's ikmen pounded yam. Not just any other pounded yam. You have the pounded yam with white yam, the yellow yam pounded yam, and a goosey soup or any soup of any kind. So when they go to Europe, they found out that there was a particular food that they make. They call it puree. When they turn that food, it looks exactly like it. So when they did that, they used that to get these young boys who also came to Europe to hustle, but they were not making enough money. So for them to be able to keep these young men, they began to use puree to bring them, which was the traditional food in Benin. Most of these young boys couldn't get this food. So for him, even though he didn't like what the woman was doing, but she had puree to give him. So that was how that name came, and people began to call them puree boys. And let me tell you the reason how they got the name Centro boys. Centro is a city center in Italy. When you say center, where they used to go and shop. When a woman has made a lot of money in the business of international prostitution and she wants to keep a man, she asks the man, what do you want? He can say, I want to build a house in Benin. I need my own house. I want to start up my own business. And the man like, okay, is that all you want? she settles the man. When she settles him, she takes him to the city center in Italy and begin to buy a whole lot of things for him. And these things could be gold jewelries. You know, the boys, they always put on gold jewelries. The designers, they told me that they wear marker. We do not wear anything apart from markers, you know, that's complete stuff, or designers, you know. When she does that, then she takes him to a gold shop where she puts gold earring on his ear. Note, you know that young boys these days, they all put on gold earrings. They put on earrings on their ears. It's a fashionable thing now. But in the 1990s, a Benin boy that comes from Europe to Nigeria with 2 earrings, it signifies that he has been bought by a woman. He has been bought by a woman. So even among the Beninese community in Italy, in Spain, when they see you with 2 earrings, they'll ask among themselves, they are not done, meaning who bought this one? So if the young lady is interested in who bought this one, she wants to know if she has more money and she can go and give the young guy a higher level and take him from the original owner. So I saw this situation of when a parade boy will come, the original woman will bring him from Nigeria to Europe. Then another woman over there in Europe will buy the guy out. Then there will not be issues of conflict in their society. So these issues, because the concept of parade is very large, that's why I have to explain this whole thing. That's why I'm not, there are scholars that have worked on international prostitution. I'm thankful to Stacy, who is here. She's a scholar on migration and migrant issues. So I am very happy you are here. So I have mentioned all of them in my work, but I just want to bring out these issues of parade, which I got from directly from my primary research, primary data, and make us understand who these parade boys are first, who they are, and talk about the Genova gang. The Genova gang of the parade boys. Let me quickly go there. This gang started in 1990, to be precise. In 1990, Nosa Genova, who is the leader of the gang, went to Italy with the help of the elder sister, who is a big-time trafficker in Benin. When Nosa Genova got to Italy, because he was tall, lanky, handsome, Nosa Genova told me, he said, for the first 15 years of his stay in Italy, he never did any work. He built 2 houses, but not just any houses. He built mansion in Benin, but he never worked. He was the biggest parade boys. We have Eweka, Ige Eweka, one of the parade boys and is part of the Genova gang. Eweka is known for, Sir Genova, for example, went for younger girls. Eweka goes for madams. And the madam settles Eweka with 3-4 girls. When I mean 3-4 girls, those that are in migration studies will understand. We're talking about girls that work for these madams. These are sex workers for madams in Italy. So for Eweka to stay with you, you have to settle him with some girls that will now be working for him. That is for Eweka. Then you have Kingsley, who is also part of the Genova gang. Kingsley is also a very fine young man. He dealt with young ladies, beautiful ladies. And for Kingsley, he moves from one city to another in Italy. So he can have one in Milan. He can have one in Genova. I'm talking about the number of women that are his babes and he's sheltering them. I was discussing with Prof yesterday. I said, when I say I'm sheltering you, do you know the meaning of that? Like, okay. They're like, what's known that is the boy now or sheltering again now? That means the boy is collecting her wealth, all because of the promise of relationship and marriage. And you find out that these young girls, I did an analysis of the triangle of slavery. I'm sorry, I don't have this available. The triangle of slavery that come out as a result of this thing. These young girls are sent by their parents to go into it. Some of them from their parents, their uncles, their relatives, they go to Italy to prostitute, to do sex work and make money. When then they pay madam huge money. When they finish paying madam, they have to settle their parents. You have to build a house or do something for your parents, or else you are failed. And after settling the parents, the most important thing that is next is for her to buy a man for herself or settle a man to stay with her. That was all Professor Stacy told me. He said it's a two-way thing. You cannot say just buy or pay and all that. So it might be, okay, you do this for me and I do this for you. So you find out that these young ladies, sex worker from Edo, international sex worker from Edo, are into the problem which I call the triangle of sex slavery. So among these Shentro or Pure or black boys, you find that the Genova gang were peculiar with something, wet and glamour. They were all very weird. And I spoke to Papa. His popular name in Benin because they all have gang name. How do I know most of these people? My grandmother, who was an Olokun worshipper, when they come to my grandmother, the first place they get to is the Oromila shrine. And they begin to place their head on top of Oromila. Oromila, give me favor before my woman. Oromila, give me favor before my, and they if you are from Benin, you know that the Beninese believe that Olokun is the god of wealth. So they come to seek. So it is not just a physical thing. I analyzed up to 10 young men who are part of the Genova gang, which is actually a very large gang. But these are the major people who transformed Benin society and made Pure business very lucrative. That at this stage, these young men, they felt that they could capture women for their own glamour. I tell you, Mr. Genova, who is the leader of that gang, never married any Italo. That's what we call them. I did a conceptual qualification of Italos and all that. So sorry, I didn't have time for that because I had to explain what Pure boys is, Pure Central boys or black boys, because it's a new term in this area that we are dealing with. So you find out that even Mr. Genova, with all the money amassed from Pure, I have numbers, all the names of all his different girlfriends. From one, the first, the second, the third, that spent huge money on him. Eventually did not marry them. But for Kingsley eventually married one of them. Up to today, Eweka is not yet married. He's still in the Pure business. This is more than 30 years he has remained in it. And we have, although I'm focusing on Genova gang, we have Roberto. Roberto, for example, has been in Pure business for close to 40 years. We have never seen him work but he has always been rich and big through women. So I will say that the Central boys were the people that came to legitimize sex work in Benin. Why would I say that? International sex work had a whole lot of negative issues that came with it. It would have reduced. But the moment these young ladies began to understand that if we make money, we can buy a husband for ourselves, have children, and we will also be respected in the society. And as time went by, these young ladies became highly respected because, first, they have everything that when you are talking about success in Benin, what do we use in measuring success? They add all that you can use in measuring success. They have a husband, they have children, and they had what was much more important that the local women who didn't travel among them did not have. They had money. Thus, I conclude with this. Pure boys help to make the issue of international sex work overstayed in Benin. Thank you. So, as the organizer of the panel and the presenter, I will give space to everybody. I think we already have questions online, but I will start with those that are here to start taking their questions. Thank you. Then, after taking their questions, we'll go to those that are online. Please, these are working paper. We are grateful for intuitions, ideas that will make this work better. Both the one on courtesy, I need feedback so that I can get back to our presenter who is in and then please, while we are making our points, let's be conscious. Yes, let's not be soft about things. Let's be respectful about it, and let's understand that we are all doing scholars, every one of us, and we are learning. These are presentation, and I might have done a lot of presentation, but I am learning and saying
So we can rush.
Okay, let me start. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Martina Omorodio. So I am from Auchi, married to a Benin man. So I'm from Edo State. So I'm always interested in these studies. So my first question is to the young man that presented on cultism. So the first question I have for you, cultism being a negative trend from initial conception. When cultism was, because we have traditional cultism in Benin, and I remember my husband told the story of following grandmothers to such secret meetings. So it is recognized. So was it always a negative trend? Did it always have to do with negativity? Then I wanted to look at this because I lectured at Ambrose Ali University for a while, and when I was there, one of the things I discovered recently is that cultism has gone down, and Yahoo, internet scam has gone up. So what is the link between the reduction of cultism in Ambrose Ali University and the rise of internet scam? In fact, in my school, we allow our young men dressing up. The boys come to classes, we painted nails, they have piercings in their nose, they wear their rings, they dress. Some were complaining and said that we should regularize them. One of the things they said was, listen, if this is what we calm them from engaging in violent acts, let's let them express their way. So you should have us look at that link between cultism and Yahoo. Then to my beautiful Benin sister, I'm always going to be sister, but she's the perfect Benin girl. I have a question for you on Edo proverbs. So Osayomore music has a lot of proverbs. I want to ask you, are these proverbs original or he created them himself? So let's look at this. I think it's another paper entirely for another topic for you entirely. The music of our ceremony Joseph and the creation of Edo proverbs. Then to my sister here, Pat, I have this for you. And I noted something that you said, and I noted it for myself, the linkage of food to attract men. But I also noticed another thing. There is what we have terms and terminology. There are some things I say, or I hear somebody say, or just an Benin person. So the linkage of terms and terminology between the sex trade in Europe and Benin. So I want you to look at that for us and gather this for us because you have that resource. I will explain to you terms and terminology that has come from the sex trade in Europe by the Benin women sex trade, the terms and terminology. So something like Italo, Central Boys, Italy by Bidon, Akate, gather this terminology for us and do it to create a paper for us. Now, the last one is this. Can we look at the subversion of gender roles in Benin by sex workers and central boys? Because Benin is a patriarchal state. The man is the head. But by the time I was going to the University of Benin, one of the first things I learned was that I learned of what Benin language. In fact, there is a concept and a picture of the Benin language. Where are the men? If we're talking about Benin language, where are the men? But when I drew this from the sales trade and the girls coming back to build houses for their mothers. So we now have a generation of Benin landladies. So in a way, I think this sex trade has now changed and changed the gender roles. It has subverted it in certain ways. So if you could help us look at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your innovation. Thank you. Let's just go to President.
All right, thank you very much. So my first question, let's maybe comment or question goes to Mercy. I know it's a work in progress, but I would like to say that for some of the proverbs you give, there's no direct link, or there's no clear-cut link between your the proverb and the connotative interpretation that you gave to it. One of such I kept on in my mind, I was trying to analyze it, but it was when you got to number 6, I had to note that down. So you may want to look into that. Then my question is, I don't know if you did that, or if you did, you didn't do it clearly. What are the contexts of these proverbs? You understand that? I know that, okay, most times when people give proverbs, there's always, there are always contexts that fit the proverbs accurately. So you may want to provide the context and, if possible, discuss on those contexts extensively. Okay, now, Madam, Yahoo boys and prostitution. So from what you've said so far, I think I might be wrong, but I think we might be able to gather that Benin women in the prostitution trade are powerful. So if they are powerful, where does that leave the men they buy? Do you understand? And then in the context of their relationship or marriage, whatever happens, who is the man eventually? Because from your narrative, I think I've been able to gather that the women pay the bills of the men. So if they pay the bills of the men, does that make the men domestic? Does that make the men less powerful? Can they be, you know how patriarchy is in Nigeria, or how the relationship dynamics in Nigeria is, where women are expected to be subservient to their men, women are expected to act according to the dictates of their men. So in such relationship, who controls who orders who around, who serves who, okay, and the rest of all that. And then the women that you said the madams gave to Erika's girlfriend or whoever, gave to him as a way of buying him. So what happens to them eventually? Because I think I've been able to understand that in the dynamics of sex trade and enslavement, at the end of the day, for the girls to be free, they have to pay for their freedom. So since these madams have given the girls to their boyfriends or husbands eventually, who do they pay their who do they pay for their freedom? And I think that's basically all for now.
Number 3.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Madam Pat and Mercy, for your presentation. My comment actually goes to Madam Pat on her presentation. In the course of your presentation, you did mention that men, okay, you said women travels to abroad. And sorry, if I got you right, they keep men in Benin, then travel to abroad. Then maybe as boyfriend or husband, Abi? Is it as boyfriend or husband? Husband as well. Then they go there to make money and come back to buy them over, or they settle them with money. They use money to entice them to keep them. But you did not also mention that poverty also led some men to also encourage their wife in this business. I don't know if it is included in your work. Perhaps time did not permit you to make mention of it. And again, you did not also mention that there were also some instances of ladies who on their return from Europe, maybe along the line, end up rejecting these men who could have waited for them for a very long time. And that's it for that. Then another one again, you said Benin women, okay. You said it was compulsory for Benin women to have children, Abi? Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you. Benin marriage happens to be my area of specialty and the Benin native law and custom. But I think you failed to mention that from time immemorial, it was forbidden in Benin for a woman to give birth out of wedlock. Reason being that, I'm so sorry that time did not permit me to actually discuss my paper yesterday. Yes, all these were captured in my paper yesterday. Please do well to try and get my paper to read as soon as it is published. I'm going to do everything possible to publish it. Yes, no. In the pre-colonial time, chastity was the characteristics of the Benin girls. Then, when a Benin girl is married, and okay. All right, thank you.
Sorry, can I just add that? What you said about, and also what she has said, can you say that this young boy, what's the name? Call them. That's the problem now. Because yeah, I just don't have this women section now. Yeah, of course. And they make well happen.
We just don't want somebody to stay on one question too long. Yeah, and get to everybody.
Mine just comment.
Yes, no problem.
Yeah. Let me just do my comment. Yes, I'm Abigail Oahena. From those states. Oh, really? Okay. I'm Dr. Abigail Oahena, no, what's the name? From Edo State, so I'm quite conversant with what has been discussed so far. Thank you, the beautiful presenters. You did a fantastic job. Starting with the first presenter, I will advise, like someone had already mentioned it, your proverb and the connotative meaning, they were not quite syncing, they were not in line with each other, especially one particular one, you talked about food, you even use beans. So the connotative meaning was, sorry. Okay, the connotative meaning there was not apt, was not syncing with the proverb. Okay, so again, you have to make it look it's like a serious work, scholarly, by citing some authorities. Okay, can give a historical background to this before delving into the proverb. Okay, all right, fantastic. Then to the madam that presented on the Kore boys and prostitution, yeah.
So you talked about that they used to pierce their ears.
Yes.
So it means that once their ears are pierced, someone has bought them, a big person has bought that particular guy. Now, if the person is tired of the guy, can sell the guy out. All right. So now what I want to ask, is there anything like contract? Like I'm buying you, this is the contract. So it's another person is coming to pick you from me. This is what the contract is saying. That kind of thing, please, let's leave it. There's not just be like a narrative. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for all the questions and all the comments. Dr. Omoro Matrina, please, I will take your questions, your comments on courtism. I'm taking them down. I'll take it back to Agobawe again. Thank you very much. And you made a very important point that I should take our time and analyze what you call terms and terminology of what?
The terminology that has come, new
language that came with international constitution.
Exactly.
Okay, but I want to know the word you use, terms and, because I'm writing the terms and terminology of international. Okay, thank you. Yes, I've written them down. And in my work, I actually did a conceptual clarification of all these terms, like Akate, Italo, not in this work, in my thesis that I'm writing. So I did, yes. So, no. She said, saying that can be another paper that I should just look at terms and terminologies and all that. Then someone spoke about the generation of Benin landlady. Who did that? The landlady, you're the one. Okay, so in my work, I have the landlady phenomenon in Benin. In that landlady phenomenon, I discussed how women became landladies. First, I analyzed the importance of land in Benin. For us in Benin, one of the most important things is land. First, for you need a land to build a house. You need a land to be buried in. So if any man can be regarded as a paid man, is a man that does not have a land. Because if he dies, where will he be buried? In Benin, for example, there are people that you bury them, you take them to cemetery. We feel that it's young boys that died, and then you take to cemetery. But a man who has wife and children, one of his emblem of success, and a woman who has a husband and children, one of his emblem of success is that he has a land and he has a landed property. So there's one of my work that is on academia.com where I tied international prostitution with the value for landed property. Because most of the girls that traveled out, all of them desire to own a land and build a house for their mother. Like she had correctly said, it is mostly polygamous home, and everybody just wanted to own a home for their parents. For their parents, it can be father, it can be mother, but most times it was mothers because of the polygamy. Every woman to his own taste. And so for a young girl that steps out, all she wants to do is that when my mother dies, I will have a house to bury her. So these are the issue concerning the landlady. Thank you very much for the point. Then you said, if the women pay the bills, does that make the men less and all that? So at the beginning of rape, these women were paying the bills. They had the money, they had everything. I'm talking about the early 90s. They had everything, yet they were still under the mercy of the men. That is why I told you, somebody like Nosa Genova had several girlfriends that spent huge money on him that he never married. So at the end of the day, Nosa Genova, because in my work, I analyzed the sad end of some Kure boys. There were some that ran mad,
There was one that told his girlfriend, go back to Nigeria, I'm coming to meet you to marry you. He never went there. And the girl is an Eastern girl. So she went home and cried. And some principality sat. And the guy had a terrible accident and died. So for us, we believe that it was the arrow from Eastern land that killed the guy. You know how we are. So these cases, I dropped some of these cases of the sad end. There's another one that ran mad because they ate. So they said Mr. Genova, for example, survived because of his mother, who was an Olokun Christian and had so many powers and all that to protect him from forces. You understand what I'm saying? So you have at the beginning, the men were still in charge, but later, many of these men became like toy to these boys, to these women. They began to rebel against them because of the heartbreak. Maybe a girl, she has settled so many boys, and then no one eventually married them. So when she now eventually gets one, she's not hard. That's why you say that Benin girls are hard, they are doing, they are that. Or those ones you see online fighting currently, most of them are as a result of heartbreak. If you go to our cyberspace, you will hear Shencho tire. You will see them shouting, screaming of how Shencho boys are dealt with them. So that is it for that. And then who do the girls give the money? Okay, when the madams give and say, okay, I'm using these 4 girls to settle you, what happens is that the 4 girls begin to pay the money that they were supposed to pay to the madam, to that guy, to settle him. Do you understand the context now? Like, okay, I've given you these 4 girls, they will be paying to you. The girls were supposed to pay to madam. Now they are now paying to that guy to settle him. That is it on that. Then poverty leading the men to encourage their wives. Of course, poverty led the men to encourage their wives. And the issue of chastity, the value, all these were clearly, in fact, that was the beginning of the work. You cannot talk about this. I'm a historian. Can't talk about the history of Benin women without talking about the value. There is a whole section, and I have on academia.com, I have what is a work titled "The Sexuality of Pre-Colonial Benin Women." It talks about the do's and the don'ts of pre-colonial Benin women. How the wrapper that the mother, the white wrapper that the mother gives to you on the day of your wedding, it must not be stained. It must be stained with blood to show that you were kept at home, that you were good, that these were the values. And I moved from there to analyze how these issues, how these values were crushed, were conquered as a result of the first time Benin was conquered was in 1897. Benin had fought several wars with different kingdoms. They kept expanding from a kingdom to an empire. Nobody had ever conquered them. It was the British soldiers. They were the first people that ever conquered Benin as a nation. So it was the first time they were losing their personality. And when they came in, the first thing they did were to pull down every structure that was there and began to rebuild their own, rebuild their ideas. They gave liberty to young girls. What she said yesterday in our work, you do not, before you even marry, you don't even know the man. It is your parents that give you out. And there's a process you go through. But right now, the women are allowed to make their own choice, choose the kind of man that they want to have. And so that is it for that. So what you asked, the question you asked about chastity, they are written there. So you go to academia.com and see women, pre-colonial Benin women and sexuality, and you find that. Thank you. So I will allow Professor Stacy to round up this section.
Yeah, we have someone.
Okay. Who? Supposed to present. Okay, he was supposed to present. I've been waiting for him online. He's not able to. Okay, let's allow Professor Stacy say what is needed for so that we'll. If we still have time, how many more minutes do we have?
23 minutes.
How many?
23.
Okay, we still have time.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll start by commending again all the presenters. That's extraordinary for your first presentation. Well done. I'm so happy to be a part of this. Is it the third Benin Studies session? Fantastic work putting all of these things together, and so great to hear about all of the other research you're also doing. Of course, I have a special conversation that I'll be continuing with Pat for, I hope, many years. We should be discussing these things. But specifically in response to this paper, I think what you presented is very interesting. And I think part of my response has to do with what we were beginning to discuss yesterday, is the historical facts here could be used to tell many different stories. And in fact, the way you're presenting it, I hear different stories even in your own presentation. In some ways, you called this, did you say a triangle of sex slavery? So that language, that they are buying the men, that they're sending them to Italy, that they're abandoning, like that's the language of trafficking, right? That's a language of sexual exploitation. And in fact, one of the questions from the audience is, are they prostitutes? Which is another language of, if not exploitation, then at least of morality, of when is money appropriately exchanged between relations, and when is it morally corrupt or sinful, or there's other discourses there that are present. And I think it's very interesting how the dynamic you're describing inverts some of what we can see in other parts of society, including Nigerian society and Benin society. So one of the issues you've identified is that these women have been paying small amounts to these men, and they don't even marry at the end. But it mirrors roles that we see, that men can give money to women. You know, no, I'm not talking about prostitution now. I'm just talking about ordinary life. And you know, there's all these gray areas in Nigerian society, let me say. You have runs girls, you have boyfriends, you have senior guys. They're not prostitutes. It's different. It's different when it's a long-term relationship, it's small things, it's transport money. There's lots of ways that money is flowing. So one of the big difference here is just that it's flipped, that it's the women that have the money and it's the women that are demanding things. And that doesn't make it necessarily okay. It doesn't make it necessarily empowerment. Personally, I think it might look like empowerment because women are buying property. And that's a huge change, as you pointed out. That's a big change. Even your own, just now you were saying the women are, you know, choosing their own husbands. As if that's a problem. And it's fine if you think that's a problem. Me, I don't know if that's okay. But this is my suggestion for you, is as you're writing this history, be very clear and in fact, embrace the many different stories that are here. So when you're looking at the historical evidence, say, for example, you're using an interview with one of these central boys, keep their words. So you can hear their story. Which parts did they find morally wrong? Which parts did they find to be empowering of them? Now, there will be a different story when you look maybe, say, in newspaper articles or maybe even on online forums. There will be a different story because society can be judgmental of those boys, even as they see themselves as doing the right thing. Then you talk to the women themselves, they will have a different story. In fact, the madams will have a different story, the ones that sent, you know, those 4 girls to settle some guy, than the girls themselves. And they will have a different story from that time, from when they advance up. So it's very important as you put this together into a research paper that you can track those different perspectives together and show what they reveal about the complexity of society at that time. And then once you identify all those things separately, then your own voice can come in as a scholar. Because right now, I think it's partly the nature of these presentations, is that your own voice is mixing with the voices of the people you've talked to, is mixing, your analysis is mixing a little bit with what the evidence you're citing. And at the end of the day, it's very important that we can see the evidence. What are the historical facts? And then what are your interpretations of those facts? Because I also want your voice there, but it needs to be very clear which is your voice, which is your interpretation. So at the end of the day, if you want to call this a triangle of sex slavery, fine, but be explicit that that's your interpretation. Exactly. And then make sure that's consistent with the other analysis you're offering, because what I'm seeing here is still something that we can easily flip. Men for all this time have had money, so they could sustain many sexual relationships and ultimately pick the one they want to marry, fine. If women now have money that they can own their own property, let their mothers be buried with dignity, choose their own partners, travel freely when they want to, I don't know if that's a story of sexual slavery. You have to convince me using the evidence that this is sexual slavery, exploitation, morally wrong. So make sure the evidence is presented in a clear way and then offer your argument. The argument is very important, but it must be supported by the clear evidence in the historical record. And that historical record, because this is such an important issue, because this is something that people are talking about in Benin, it's very important that your analysis as a historian is made distinct from the kind of just the social history that's happening in people's homes. I value that social history very much, but it's its own phenomenon because it has so much stigma, culture, morality talk like wrapped up in it. So you can present that social history and then your own voice must be separate from it. The social history is its own fact, not because they have it right, but because it exists. So it's a historical fact that people talk about these things in those ways, but that doesn't mean that everything they say is correct about how the past was. You have to investigate those things separately.
Okay, let's take one more presenter.
No.
Just give her.
There's no presenter. Is it It's not this one.
Yes, it's not.
It's not. He's not a presenter. It's Ebuka Onoha that is a presenter, but I'm trying to promote him to panelists, but he keeps declining. So I don't know why.
So no, it's the way that he's presenting. I just called his paper. It was supposed to be the first person.
His name is not.
Let me show you. Maybe that was how to present yesterday, but he could not. So we moved it to today.
Unless because it's
It's on green panel. Let me show you page 44. Page 44. Okay. Page 44 is there.
Okay, so can you hear us?
Iweke Emmanuel. Dr. Iweke Emmanuel, can you hear us? Yes. Hello, Iweke, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
You have just 7 minutes to present.
All right, that's fine. Yes. Good morning to everybody there. I followed up the presentation, wonderful presentations in Benin Studies panel, and I'm essentially having a paper on the Benin dimensions of Ijaw origin. And as I speak to you from Bayelsa State in the heart of the Niger Delta, which is predominantly an Ijaw environment. Now, in the course of my interactions with Ijaw history, I found out that there's a lot of linkages with the Benin people. For example, E.J. Alagwa's 1972, A History of the Ijaws of the Niger Delta, explicitly stated that the Ijaws had relationship with the Benins. For example, the Ijaws of the Ibema, the Main, the Arobos, there are a lot of relationship. But coming to contemporary times, let's say from the 1950s, there seemed to be no sort of relationship between the Benins and the Ijaws. And when you have such narratives that links certain people together and you find no interaction, no visible interaction, you came to wonder why, there seemed to be no sort of that engagement between them. And also, I had a paper I presented at the Tony Falola organized conference on J. Atonda at Babcock University in 2021. And it was about Yoruba influence on Ijaw-Ishekiri relations. Now, when you look at Ishekiris, they have relationship with the Benins by their tradition of origin. And the Jaws have also at certain times pointed that they have some relationship with the Benin. So in a conflicted situation, where is the Benin factor in resolving the conflict? That's the crux of the paper. The Benin factor in the resolving of conflict, intergroup conflict in the Niger Delta. Taking that the Benin is now a center point for the relationship between certain peoples. So we now have a situation where the Benin is now a direction where we can trace for possible, solutions to problems rocking people in the Niger Delta. And also, when you look at Benin studies is, or Benin itself, Benin as a kingdom, is larger than Benin city itself. It talks about Benin's relationship with other people. It talks about Benin's hegemony over other ethnic groups around. And of course, we have records of Benin being a place of settling conflict, like a center of conflict resolution between different peoples. In the Yoruba traditions of origin, you have kingship tussles being settled at the Palace of Benin. In even the Agbo tradition of origin, you have, this being settled there. So, moving forward, what are the essential linkages between the Benin and the Jaws? One, you have trade relations, you have intermarriage relations, you have political alliances between the Benin and the Ijaws. But essentially, the relationship between the Benin and the Ijaws are taking place in the way and manner that they are being intergroup mix of cross-fertilized individuals through marriages. So when you have people married from one ethnic group to another, you now see that that particular section or people that migrated from their particular ethnic group to your own ethnic group would represent their origin as that of the original group that they came from. They represent the origin that they have as the original, as that from their original group. So that means that when a particular group of people migrate from Benin, just as we have in Benin tradition of origin, that there are times when the Oba was an Oba might be wicked in quote, or might be dictatorial. Some persons might migrate from Benin to other places, and it is that particular group a narrative in terms of origin that might be representative of the community they don't find themselves because of their dominance of that particular place. So that is where the linkages of Benin tradition of origin comes into Ijaw environment, because at certain point in time there have been migrations outside Benin. But you look at the customs, look at the tradition, you look at the language and many other things, to try to look at an holistic relationship between Benin people and Ijaw people. Like, you try to find out whether there's really some form of relationship apart from what I just stated earlier. For example, the language between the Benin people and that of the Ijaws is like 5,000 years different, according to K. Williamson research on languages of the Niger Delta, where the Ijaw is said to be at least 5,000 years out of the Mangle family as a distinct family than Benin, than Igbo and Yoruba. And of course, if you look at the worldview of the Ijaw people, it's basically maritime. And the Benin people do not have that maritime consciousness as such in their engagements on a daily basis. I have an oral tradition of a Benin monarch that was intending to go to war against probably the Jaws, and drowned on their way in the expedition. And that there became a law in Benin that no Oba, should go on battle, especially to the riverine areas. I believe the guys that are Benin historians can be able to check that out for me. But that's something I got from my interactions with certain Benin individuals. So to round this up, Benin, whether it is imagined or it is real, Benin is supposed to be a focal point for conflict resolution in the Niger Delta, especially between various ethnic groups in the area, because various traditions of origin link people of the Niger Delta to Benin. And the people of Benin, the Oba and the leadership must be seen to be playing that role in engaging people regularly, in engaging the various ethnic groups regularly, in a way and manner that will promote, cohesiveness of not just the Niger Delta peoples, but of course, stability and prosperity of the Nigerian Federation. I think these are the little things I will just quickly wrap up my paper before we end the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, another question about
It was a lovely presentation by Messi, linking the Proverbs and Solomon's Proverb. My question or a little concern I have is in the linking, and also consider the divergent views of the Proverbs of Solomon from the Christian religion space. For instance, Solomon's a man's pave way for him has been seen as challenge. Some say it is money, gift, or bribe. Some say it is gift as per boxes. So will you consider engaging the Christian faithful before linking, or perhaps it can also open up your discussion?
Let me just quickly respond to this and also relate to some comment that I got earlier. So, I know it's verity. In language is verity. And so sometimes the literary meaning of a proverb is not the deep meaning. So let me put a context, because you asked about who the context of this proverb, to one of the proverbs that I used. Which means that the bird away can never meet danger on the tree. That it's always wise enough to avoid or to escape danger on the tree. Now, take for instance where when that proverb is being used. For instance, you've heard stories like, this person was traveling, and then he was supposed to enter this particular vehicle. And then something happened, maybe there was some argument and he could not take that vehicle, and then the person entered the next vehicle. And then just in the next 30 minutes, they are hearing that common vehicle that was supposed to enter had that an accident, and almost everybody died. And the person that hears it was like, wow, a good care. What the person is saying is that person, the person gathered, that's why I also mentioned that sometimes there are some spiritual interpretation to this proverb. That person gathered angels has been able to help or assist that person from escaping that coming danger. But if you look at the literary meaning, it doesn't exactly tell that is what it's saying. Because it's not talking about a bird flying from perhaps a hunter trying to catch or something, you get it. But there are deeper meanings to this thing. Right? And so it's just the same thing with the proverb of Solomon. Sometimes that's why there's particular one I vividly show the contrast. Where the proverb of Solomon was using a bird, where the proverb was using a stone. But those two objects was literally referring to a man, somebody, and not really the object. So there can be that contrast where the proverb will say a gift, and then the proverb say money. Someone says a friend, and then the proverb says enemy. But what they're actually referring to is the same meaning in terms of the deeper meaning of the qualitative meaning of that proverb. I said when you have to was authority, just like what I was saying. As far as situation go to the Christian army. That's like what I'm saying. So you have to decide make so you have to show us that the packaging of giving just analysis, whatever it is, so like they're saying analyze. You must incorporate that's a ratio like yes. Thank you everyone. I think we have one more question.
Thank you. I listened to your presentation and I thought when I sang question, so we can do this now, I think since it's Solomon's proverb, then you have to actually tell us the angle you're looking at, whether from Protestantism, from Pentecostalism, because now we have different divergent views of the proverbs, like I put there, so we can talk about that later. And lastly, on cultism, I listened to the beginning also before I joined here live, where you said cultism can be found among children, adults, and like that. And I was wondering how you conceptualize cultism or cult, because sometimes it's not all negative, and that is not even to trace it from the beginning or from some people in the Southwest that we say
Wale Soyinka started cults, whether that's true or not, we don't know. But what I'm saying is that even amongst some religious sects, they use the word cult also. And also when it comes to social gathering too, cult or cultism or the concept of cultism can also be mentioned. So I didn't know how you conceptualize cultism, whether to be negative or to be positive, whether in the sacred or in the secular, because it must be clear before you now engage the discussion, and we can now know where we can think about when you mention cultism, we can know where we can focus ourselves to. Thank you so much.
Very much for your points. We'll get back to the, I'll give the opportunity to the presenter who's on the way here on the phone. And thank you everyone for being part of our panel, which is New Directions in Benin Studies. My humble self is the organizer of the panel, and I'm glad to have you all. And I want to thank especially Professor Stacy. Thank you for being part of our panel. You're in the first and you are in the third. And thank you for the gift for our mentees and our young students. We are grateful for that. Thank you, everyone. And we've heard your points. We work and the discussion continues. Thank you.